Hey guys, welcome back to Vinceville Custom. So today we're going to do a work in progress video on this Wonder Woman statue. Now, I'm not really sure who sculpted it or who produced it. I think there's a sticker on the bottom of the base, but I'm not really pulling that off because she wobbles and I don't want to break anything right now and make more work for myself. But we're going to bring this back to life. We're going to do a few things to it. So one thing that the main issue of this, besides repainting and doing custom work, is actually this plastic strap that's going around her. I don't know what material this is. I'm pretty sure it's like a PVC or plastic. But whatever factory painted this, or whatever this material is, it's actually leaking. I'm not really sure what's going on. I don't know if it's like the PVC or the plastic is not fully cured, and it's causing whatever's on there to leak. Or it's a plastic that somebody used a primer that's not made for plastic, and it's actually reacting to it. So this happens a lot with certain items. So if you're ever working on a statue and it's a resin statue and you prime it and then you're getting like a tackiness after you primed it and you painted it and it feels like it's leaking, there's two things going on. Well, major two things. One, the resin or plastic is not cured, and what it is, it's just like leaking the liquid through, and it's always going to keep doing that, and there's nothing you can do about it short of chopping at that area and redoing it, or if it's the whole entire item that's leaking, therefore the whole resin is bad. That happens if people don't mix the resin correctly, or they just kind of like slap the resin real quick and then pour it in. You really got to get your resin mixed together because it's equal amounts, and then you got to do that. The other thing is, this could be some really cheap primers and paints. So this could be like a plastic. There could be like a primer on there. But what's happening is the primer is reacting to whatever like leather paint's put on here. That's another thing that could be going on. Personally, whenever there's a leaking issue like this, and it's actually something that's attached there, I just told my friend that I'm doing this for, let's just rip it off and resculpt it. There's no sense trying to sit here and correct this, go through all this work of customizing and painting her, and then all of a sudden down the line when he goes to move her or picks her up, it's leaking and it comes off his hand. So it's better just to get rid of the material and go from scratch, you know? So basically what I have to do is I have to plan this out in my head a little bit, and I'm going to kind of resculpt the strap on here and everything and go from there. Now I think this part of the strap actually holds like the sword hilt or something, so I got to kind of plan all this out. I got to go back into the box and find out the pieces. Now another thing is he has a shield, which I think this is a 3D print or it comes from another statue. I'm not really sure. So I think what I'm doing is I'm putting this on her arm somewhere, and I think it might be removable. I'm not really sure. I have to figure that out. I have to go through the email and stuff. And the other thing too is I guess he has this. It's a prop replica, but it should be like a letter opener, but I don't think it is. But anyway, it's a Wonder Woman sword. So I think I'm actually putting this in her hand. I'm not really sure. I have to go through the emails. But one way or the other, this sword is going on her somewhere. But since her hand has holding something, I'm pretty sure I have to put it in the hand. The other thing too is if I do put this in there, I got to make sure these magnets are actually strong enough to hold it. So I might have to redo the magnets in this hand too. So that's one of those things. And the last thing is, I guess we'll kind of look underneath of her because she kind of falls apart and stuff. We're going to sort of create the booty again in the crotch area, because if you look under there, it's just flat. And she actually does wear like shorts. She doesn't actually have like underwear underneath of her. It's kind of like running shorts, I think, or something. So I have to kind of go in there and resculpt that for him the best I can. So I'm gonna have to do the strap first, then attach these legs and sort of create like a little booty and crotch under there and kind of work that out. And then it's just a full repaint. So throughout this video, I'll kind of go over the custom work I'm doing. I'll kind of explain all that stuff. And once we get all the elements done, we'll kind of fast through the paint up because it's just going to be repainting it and get it done. So it's not really in-depth paint work. It's more of a custom work. And we'll see how it looks at the end. But all in all, I think that's about it. Like I said, I got to go through the email. I don't know if there was anything I was supposed to do with the hair. I'm not sure if I was supposed to put the shield on the back of her, or if I was supposed to put the shield on the arm. I want to go through the email and find out. But either way, this should be a good-looking project once it's all done. Basically, in the description, if I get more information when I post the video, I'll put who sculpted it and produced it and all that, and this way you guys can see from there. So once I plan this out, we'll get started, and we'll get this all fixed up. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to start doing the belt around her upper torso first. Well, not the belt, well, the belt and sash and all that stuff, because it's going to be easier to handle this now before I attach the legs. I went ahead and I dremelled out underneath in here to get the legs attached. It turns out she's kind of hollow in there, but not too hollow to the point where I can't put a bunch of A's in there with a rod and all that stuff. So I did take off the belt. It is super tacky everywhere. Like, the whole thing is just leaking. It's very weird. So I went ahead and I sanded a lot of this down just to get a lot of the tackiness off these areas. I'm not stripping this paint down because I don't know what this resin would do with any kind of nail polish remover or paint. So I'm just painting over it. This is kind of like one of those fan art items, so I want to be very, very careful and not ruin it. So what I'm doing right now is I got this K&S brass rod. You can get these, like, this is like a flimsy one. So what I did is I went ahead and I bent this piece like this, and I'm going to just put a dab of glue there and a dab of glue in there and attach it, because the client said he didn't like the way the belt kind of sunk down on her chest. He wanted it to look like it's kind of taunt going across this point. So the best way of doing it is when I'm ready to lay the A's over this is to have a piece of metal here so the A's can lay on this and it'll be a little bit tight. Because if you do stretch out A's and you're not careful down the line, you can like put your finger on it and break it. But at least if there's some kind of metal support, it'll work out pretty well. But I think what I'm going to do though is this little part over here, I need to make a longer rod and actually bend it like a staple. So this one I kind of bent like a staple, but this part I didn't over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the garage and Dremel a little piece in here, and then put a piece of glue in there, and this should stay on pretty well, and I don't have to worry about this breaking or anything like that. It'll give it support. And I'm not really worried about if it's messy here, because the belt comes across this area here. So this came off in 3 pieces. So this is the back piece, and then this is this main piece here. So the idea is I'm going to sculpt this piece first, going across here. Get this piece going across first, up to here, because the hair is going to kind of cover some of this. And then I'll let this piece cure, and then I'll work on the back parts there. I'm going to do it in sections. I'm not going to try to rush it all in one shot. So let me go in the garage. I'm going to cut this piece up a little bit better. Because you can see I cut this one first and it didn't work out too well. And then I cut this one. That one didn't work out too well. So at least now I have a better idea of what to do. So I'll get that cut. I'll get that glued in real quick. Basically, I'm going to be using my ice gel glue. I got my Instaset, and right now over here I rolled up Aves. This is very fresh. I rolled it up mixed it up about 15 minutes, 20 minutes ago. So while I do all this stuff, when I'm getting ready to, and this starts to toughen up a little bit more, it'll be easy to work with. Because if it's really soft, it just kind of flops all over. But if you let this like work up and get stiff a bit, it'll be able to work this piece around there and let it kind of cure up perfectly good. Now, there's a little spot right here, and then there's also a spot over here. I'm not really too worried about all this stuff right now. Once I get out the shield and the sword and all these other parts and figure out what the hell goes there, I can work out that once the Aves is there. So let me get this bent up, and then we'll come back once I pretty much am ready to put this strip on. Alright, so what I did is I went in the garage and I cut up these metal rods. So you can see they kind of lock into place. So I'm going to glue this one in right now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some A's. I'm going to roll the A's over on top of this piece, let it set up for the night. And then the next day what I'll do is I'll take this piece and I'll lock that on there as well. So this way we have some support and it's not sucked into her back. So I'm kind of following this look here, you know, how it kind of goes over. It's not 100% perfect, but at least it's not going to be sucked into her back and look weird. It'll look like it's nice and taut like this piece on the front. And then when I do the hair on top of it too, a lot of this is going to get hidden. So what I'll have to do is probably see if I can bend this one just a little bit more. If I can't, what'll happen is I might have to grind it down. So even if I grind it down and it kind of pops out of place, what I'll be able to do is kind of glue it back on. And from there, I'm just trying to think about how to make sure all this is looking pretty good. But so far, I think I like it. I think it should work out pretty well. So let me get this glued on, do this piece, and then we'll do this piece another day. Alright, I was just about in the garage to do some priming on her, and I forgot I should show you guys what's going on. So, what I did is I pretty much went and sculpted like the bike shorts, because she doesn't really have like a thong or like a bathing suit. It's kind of more bike shorts, so they kind of come up to a little bit above the thighs, because you kind of see it on her artwork, which the client showed me, is you kind of see her shorts underneath her skirt, like right there, and a little bit over here as well. So it's kind of hard to get the lining up correctly, but I went ahead and did this. So I'm going to go in the garage now and prime this up, get some of this dust out of here first. And then from there, what I'll do is I probably will have to get in there with some putty work, you know, some of my Tamiya gray putty, and get in there and kind of clean it up, and then go from there. So we're pretty much good on this. You know, some stuff I'm kind of marking up and everything. I went ahead and cleaned this up over here for the, what was it, lasso. And then next step is going to work on this right arm. So we did talk a little bit about it. The shield that kind of he wanted to go here. The problem is her back is not really lined up correctly. And the other thing is the head. If we put the head on here with the shield, I have to cut the hair and make the shield work with the hair. Or cut the shield, but then it'll look weird. And then if you pop off the head and you take the shield off, you'd have a gap, and it just won't look right. It wasn't designed where it should probably have two different heads, but then that would probably cause some issues with scraping. So we decided that this shield isn't going to go on her back. If we did it where the head would never be removed and it would be this design, it would work. But since he kind of wants to have maybe the change out options, we're not going to do that. Now the other thing too is we talked about it. So I didn't notice, but this sword here that he was thinking about, this actually comes out. So this sword actually pops out. So he's thinking of maybe swapping out this blade and putting this blade in here, which could work. I just got to do some ideas and see if this will go, because you can see this is removable. But he sort of wants to keep this stuff, but with this blade in there. So I'm going to have to play with this and see. But I think no matter what I do, I'm probably going to still have to get this arm with a better magnet system, because if we put this blade in here, this is too heavy for it. So that's something I got to think about. So I'm going to kind of plan out this hand and stuff while I keep cleaning this up. And then after that, once we get the hand done and all that stuff, we got to figure out the hair. Alright, so a little bit of an update. Talked to the client, and basically this piece is removable. I think I said this before, I don't remember. I'm always filming at different points of time. But, so basically he wanted this blade on this handle. He didn't want this switched out. He doesn't really want this handle. He wants to keep it with this handle. But he likes this blade better. So what I did is I went ahead and I pulled out the little metal rod that was in here, and I jumbled out the piece in there, and I cut off that blade. So now what's going to happen is I'm going to get some glue. I'm going to try to line this up as best as I can, and try to get this lined good. Put some glue, make sure it's lined in this angle, all those angles. And then from there, what I'll do is I'll put little eaves around this too, get that situated. And I think once that's pretty much set up and done, I'm pretty sure at the end of the project I'm going to have to put a dab of glue and glue this in and make this one solid piece. Because I can't really get a magnet in there, and to put that little metal rod back in there to line up there is not going to work. So I figure it'd be better if I just kind of make this one solid piece. Now I'm pretty sure that this will hold up in her hand without falling. So basically what we'll do is we'll just put some tape around this for right now, just to kind of experiment. And you won't see it on camera, but putting her hand in there with the magnet, it seems that it's going to stay in no problem. So I don't have to worry about adding a magnet or another rod to keep this up. So that's a good thing. I think if in the beginning, if I took this handle and I put this in here, it would have been way too heavy. But this is, this is metal, so this took a lot of weight off. So I'm going to go ahead and get this glued in, lined up, put some eaves in there. And then after that, we're going to start working on the hair. And then after the hair, that is pretty much it. And we can start the paint up, I think. Alright, so I am starting the hair. I was actually just doing a test on the live stream on Rumble. I just kind of wanted to get the Rumble and get it all worked out. So I was working on this while, and I actually forgot that I'm doing a video on it. So I want to explain a little bit of what I'm doing before I go any further. I'm going to do this off camera because it's more of a testing and getting everything situated. So what I did is I put a piece of saran wrap over her shoulders and head. And then what I did is I pushed a bunch of eaves onto the back of this piece. Because what happens is this was actually like floating in the air. It actually wasn't hitting any of this area here. It wasn't hitting her shoulder. It wasn't hitting anything. It was just like floating in the air. And it didn't look right to me. So what I'm doing right now is I got to put a little bit more eaves in the back of her and stuff. And I'm just kind of working it out a little bit. So this way when you put this on her head, on the body, it doesn't just sit there and float now. So I'm going to have the you know, A's pretty much kind of on the areas where it should be. It just looked really, really weird floating. I don't mind this hair floating. I don't mind this hair floating. But there's some hair in the back here I got to kind of throw. And the only thing I got to be careful of, it doesn't lock in back there. So I'm doing the best I can where it'll look right. So right now it looks a little weird with the A's and stuff, but once I add a little bit more underneath here, it should come together. And then from there, what I need to do is, he wants me to bring the hair to life a little bit. So it's actually looks very, very flat. And I know her hair isn't really like, you know, puffy in the movie and stuff, but he wants me to bring it up a little bit more. So I gotta, what I might do is, I might just kind of layer A's very thinly on top of these areas and just kind of rebuild the hair a little bit and make it thicker, add a little bit lines and wavier, and just bring it to life a little bit more. Right now it seems very flat. I'm just not really liking it too much. So I think just adding a little bit more volume would kind of make it look a little bit better and kind of add a little bit of my waves to it. And just kind of bring it back or so. Because right now it seems this hair is so flat. Like actually too flat, so it almost looks like this is where the skull should be, and it's kind of, so I think if I add just a little bit more, it'll work out a little bit better. It's kind of hard to see in the camera, but it just looks very, very flat. But like I said, I know she's got flat hair in the movie, but I think adding a little bit more volume to it, just make it pop a little bit more. So for right now, I'm just going to do the A's on the underneath there, get all that situated, and once that's said and done, I could come back to this and start working out the top of it. Alright, so last night I went ahead and started sculpting the hair so you can see all the stuff I did. Basically all I'm doing is taking a little bit of A's, I put it around the area where there's kind of curves. So where the sculptor did sculpt curves and stuff, I'm sort of going on to that and building it up more and just adding a little bit more lines and like deeper curves to it. So you can kind of see how it's working. As you go around here, it's just very... you know, it's not bad sculpt, it's just that we want to make it a little bit more popping. So instead of sitting there trying to grind this out, I'm sculpting onto it, and it's actually making her look a little bit more full, which kind of we're liking. So I sent pics to the client, he likes it and everything. So you can kind of see the difference between the two. Let's pop her out of the face. So you can kind of see, like, there it's looking fuller, and over here it's looking a little flat. Especially coming up here. Now, I'm not saying this is hair's movie accurate, and it's not, you know, this is kind of what the client wanted me to do, and we're just kind of having fun with it. Especially back here, too. Before, it looked very, very flat. If you look on the back of the hair, it kind of feels very flat here, and then it comes back here. So just adding a little bit extra over in here, it's kind of working better. So really like the way this is turning out. So I'm happy that I'm able to do it this way instead of having to chop it all off. If it was like a fuller hair, like if it was really full, and then I sculpt on top of it, it would look really too puffy. But since it's very flattish and not really popping out as much, this is working out pretty well. So all I do is really mix up a little tiny A's, and I sit here and I just kind of listen to some music, and I do little sections and I let it dry. I work on some other projects. I come back maybe like 2 hours later when it starts to harden up and I can start doing more. You can't really go too crazy with it. If I try to sculpt all this and go back here handling it and stuff, I might drop it or I might put my finger on it. So it's better just to kind of do a little bit of age here, up here, let it dry, and do a little bit more and a little bit more and kind of finish it off. So that's what I'm doing. So hopefully by the next update, it'll be all done and I can start cleaning this up, prepping it, and then hopefully start getting it ready for paint. So I finished up the hair last night. I need to clean it up a little bit here and there, prime it. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with it. Sent pictures to the client, he's happy. Just didn't do this one part here because I felt it was okay. And yeah, it's looking pretty good. So all I have to really do now is sort of clean up the rest of the body here. So what happened is yesterday when I was doing some of the back parts, I had to sort of keep the head on here, and it kind of locked up a little bit. So I just got to do a little bit of sanding around here, cleaning up all this, and pretty much just start priming her and getting ready for paint. So I think we are pretty much done, and I think it's looking pretty good. It's a lot fuller now. It may not be like, you know, completely movie accurate, but at least now it's got a little bit more volume, and it looks a little bit, you know, it's not as like flat up top coming down. So I'm just gonna get her all prepped up, and then probably just run through the paint real quick. Not gonna go in depth on the paint in the video. Just kind of do like step by step pictures, and then hopefully she'll all be finished up. Okay, some updates on this. I completely forgot to film because I was just kind of in the zone working on days. So I talked to the client and everything, and decided we're going to attach the head. So what I did is I glued on the head during the live stream, and then what I got to do right now is I just got to do a little bit of putty work underneath here because I did use some Aves just to lock that in a little bit better. I add a little extra hair pieces underneath there to kind of fill it in. So this way it'll be easier to paint and look good. What I'm doing right now is kind of cleaning her up a little bit. Like I said, I'm not going to go crazy doing a whole thing of primer on her, but I'm just kind of going around making sure I didn't, like, you know, add anything that I messed up on. I did talk to the client. He just wanted a couple extra things added, so he sent me some pictures. So I kind of sculpted a little piece over here that was kind of some kind of metal thing there. And then over here there was another metal thing where this piece attached for the lasso. So I guess the way they had it was kind of some metal piece right there, and then it was like the leather was clipped on top of that. So that's kind of what we did right there. So I followed that as best as I possibly could. So we're pretty much ready to go. One thing though is since I've been doing putty work and priming underneath there, which I got to do just one little bit last putty work. When I primed it, I noticed that the eyes had some caked up like clear coat at the end of it, I guess after they painted. And whenever you do a clear coat like that, it causes problem if you want to paint it again. So what I did is I primed it, I sanded it down, and I kind of scraped out some areas. The only problem is I can't really dig it out too far because I don't know how much primer, how much paint, and how much clear coat is on there without breaking like the eyelashes and stuff. So right now what I'm doing is just kind of scraping it and cleaning it the best I can, so this way I know when I paint it I'll make it work. So that's kind of where we're at. So I'm not going to do any kind of crazy in-depth repaint on this video. I'll just do some pictures throughout the process, and then we'll close out the video because I really want to get this done, and I can't really spend too much more time on the videoing it, but I just kind of wanted to go over the process of customizing it. So I'm going to get this cleaned up, and then I'm going to start getting ready for paint, and then after that we'll see how she turns out. Okay, we are all finished up. Had a lot of fun with this one. You know what it was? Is in the beginning when I was working on her, when I started to do the paints, it started to be like, oh man, there's so much to her. There's all these colors, there's all this other stuff. But once I sat down, I started working on her during the streams, talking to people, kind of just doing my own thing on certain days on other items, taking a little bit at a time. Before you know it, it's finished. So it's just a matter of just patience and just kind of working it out. But all in all, I had some fun with this one. I think it worked out pretty well. The client is great to work with. I've done some work with him in the past. He pretty much, you know, shows me what he wants. We kind of brainstorm. He kind of lets me do my own thing. I send him pictures. He likes it, he doesn't like it. And things worked out pretty well. Now, like I said, I am not, if you watch me on the live streams while I was working on this one, I'm not a realistic painter. And I never really claimed to be. I try the best I can. I try to capture, you know, at least the, you know, the model or the actor or actress or whatever. I did the best I could with some matching up the skin tones. And this head sculpt is actually pretty good. So painting it up worked out pretty well. But what I did try to do is I tried to follow her, you know, facial features where her lips are kind of not really like lipstick, but they're not just natural. She does put like a lot of blush around her nose and stuff, and in her eyes she did have some like eyeshadow. So I just kind of followed that as much as I could. But you know, those guys who do those like, you know, crazy hot toy paint ups or those things, those guys are amazing, and I know they can like, you know, nail face sculpts. But with this one, I did the best I could. Now, if you watch my live streams or you were on my live stream, basically I painted up the skin tone as well. Garage Kits doesn't sell their paints anymore because there's a big whole thing where we don't know if the owner sold the company or passed away. He's not getting his supplies, so he pretty much stopped the paint. So I'm starting to use different company of paints, the skin tones, trying to come up with different blends and getting used to the stuff. So this one's kind of like a little bit of mix of the old Garage Kit flesh tones with some of the Formula P3 stuff that I have. So before I know it, I won't have Garage Kit stuff anymore. So I'm just utilizing different stuff and coming up with different, you know, formulas. And it's working out pretty well. Not bad so far. I did spray her skin tone with a little bit of the satin Mecha varnish, only because I didn't want to flatten it too much, because a lot of the pictures I was following, she seemed to have this really shinier skin than like flat. So I kind of gave it a little bit of a pop like that. So on stream, what I did is I painted the armor up in a Spaztec, what was it, Spaztec chrome silver, and then or metallic silver. And then what I did is I did I darkened it with black paint in certain areas. And then what I did is I did a Spaztec clear red on top of that. Same thing with the boots. And then, but what it was too shiny. It was way too shiny. It didn't look right. So what I did is I did an experiment on stream, and I used Vallejo Mecha Varnish Satin on top of it, and it dulled it down to the point where it looked almost like the movie, which was great. So in my camera, it might really shine up a lot because I got these two big lights at it. But if you look at it in person in like a regular light room, it almost feels like the movie armor, where it's not too bright, but certain areas kind of pop out. So that worked out pretty well. Now her blue outfit, I didn't do that on stream. So basically it's kind of a muted blue with like a grayish blue as a base. And then what I did is I darkened in some of these areas. And then what I did is I mixed up a little bit of a grayer light blue, and I dry brushed around it. And basically it gave me like the movie kind of blue outfit, because she doesn't have like blue out of the bottle. It's kind of like a grayish muted blue. Then after that, all the armor, what it is, it's Alkyd Pale Gold. And then from there, what I did is I used Citadel Warlock Bronze, and I kind of gave it a nice, like, you know, just kind of like a rusted metal. Trying to follow the artwork that the client sent me, and also the movie stuff. Because there's a couple different versions of her. You got that one movie where she's kind of like really in dark armor and it's all dark, and then what they did is they gave her better color in the other movie. So it's kind of like a mix of both. It's not like bright, like crazy Wonder Woman armor, but it's not like dulled down to the point. So it kind of works out pretty well. So I think that it came out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. You know, so I did it with the boots as well. Now the Alkyd Pale Gold, if you pour it in a bottle and you sort of let it dry a little bit, and you use a really soft paintbrush, you could go in there with a paintbrush and brush it on, which I did, and it worked out pretty well. I did airbrush this area here, but here I didn't want to mask all this off because of bleeding, so I used a paintbrush. And if you do a good strokes with a soft paintbrush and you get it to the point where it's not soaking wet part of the bottle, but it's not drying up where it's caking on you, it goes on and it dries nice and smooth. So I'm practicing a little bit more with that as well. When I was painting her up, of course, I was on stream and I didn't realize the back of her, that is actually skin tone. I did not realize this was skin tone. It's kind of a weird thing back there that's showing, but I thought that was all metal. But we fixed that on the stream. I resculpted this stuff as you saw in the video. I did painted all that in leather. We got the sword all mixed onto her as well. I had to glue this sword onto her because what was happening is it was falling out. Once I got the sword on there, in the beginning it would stay in, but what is when I put it in and out, it started to get too loose and the sword would fall off. So I glued that on there, and then what happened is when I went to pull this off, the magnet came out of this hand and it stuck to this thing. So what I decided to do was Dremel this out and put stronger magnets in there. So now this thing's not going anywhere. So that's pretty secured. And one of the other things too is this shield. He wanted to repaint the shield, so I looked at a nice good picture online of the shield, of her holding it in the movie. And like I said, I'm not a fan of working on fan art items that are painted. I would love to have this as a kit, but he said this came out years ago, and there's really no kits laying around anymore, so he had to work off of one of the factory paint-ups, I guess. I don't know. So what happened is, when I was ready, he wanted to paint all this up because it was a very orangey gold. It wasn't like this pale gold. He wanted to get rid of that orange gold out of there and make it look more like the movie shield. So when I started to spray it on there, what happened is this was all clear coated with something, and that's why I hate working on fan art items from factories, because I don't know what these factories do. Like Sideshow stuff and Pop Culture Shock, I know what those factories do, but some of this fan art stuff sometimes goes weird on you. So when I started to try to kind of get this going, what happened is none of the paint was sticking, and then all this black stuff that was around this edge here from the item was actually peeling off. So I think what happened is the factory clear coated it, and then they put like a dry paint over here to kind of like do a wash. But what happened is it wasn't bonding to that clear coat. So all I did was use a toothbrush and I kind of scrubbed it, and all that black paint was coming off the item with ease. And I used my paper towel and took it all off. So from there, what I did was I took my Duplicolor. Was it the automotive adhesion promoter to clear, and I sprayed the whole shield down. And then what I did is I darkened up this area here. I left this gold metallic in here because it kind of looks like the shield from the movie. Then I did my pale alkali gold around here. I did it around here. I used some metal around here, and then I used a Citadel Warlock bronze, and I washed it around here. Now I tried to bring out these little bit letters and these little runes and stuff as best as I could, but I think what it was is there's so much clear coat on there, I couldn't really bring it out anymore. I think if I didn't have that clear coat all stuck on there, it would have been fine. But it worked out pretty well. He's happy with it, and I think it looks pretty good, as close to the movie as I possibly could. The bracelets, what I did is I used a little bit of Spaztec Chrome on it, and then I clear coated it, and I kind of dulled them down with the Warlock Bronze, because I think the factory must have did a really crazy gloss coat on here, and then when they must have did some chrome, but what it was is the chrome was kind of rubbing off, and you can see the gloss black on there, and you couldn't really see any more chrome. I don't know if it was coming off with fingers and stuff. So I did is I just did a little bit of Spaztec on there and brought it back and worked that out. Now, one of the last things on this item, alright, well before we go to the base, we'll kind of go up to the hair. So when I painted her hair, it might be hard to see in the camera, she doesn't have pure jet black hair. I know Wonder Woman's supposed to be black hair, but if you look at her on a lot of her movie pictures, her hair has kind of got some browns in there. It's not like jet black. So what I did is I kind of followed her hair. I did a basically jet black base, but then I went in there with some browns, a little bit of walnuts, dark walnuts and browns, and kind of brought it out. So in person, you can see all those colors, but in the camera with these lights, it's probably reflecting too much, but it's not just jet black out of a bottle. Last thing is her base. Alright, so this is kind of my signature thing I like to do with my bases. So I darkened up the base, I did a little bit of like this lava cracking in there. It's kind of like what I like to do with a lot of my superhero stuff. I think it's just what it is it's a darker base that doesn't take away from the item. Before, it was a lighter rock, and it was a really bright orange gold base around the edge. And what it is your eyes sort of come down here instead of the figure. I like darker bases, and you focus on the figure. I don't like having these bright areas down at the bottom of the item. I'd rather have it dark here, and your eyes go up here. Now, one of the things, though, is you saw the pictures, the client had Metajohn actually etch out a piece of foam, and then what I did is I sprayed 3M sticking stuff on it, and I put that foam underneath there. So there's a really cool design he did that Metajohn can do that puts foam at the bottom of the items, and it's kind of stylized. Now, the only issue is there was a sticker at the bottom of here, so I figured I have to get that sticker off because I can't put that foam on there. It'll probably just come off. When I started peeling off the sticker, all of a sudden all the clear coat, somebody must have sprayed, the factory must have sprayed like clear coat underneath the base as well. And what happened is when I pulled off the sticker, some of this clear coat was like cracking off the edge here. And then when I looked closer, the clear coat was super thick going into these little crevices all the way up to here. So I decided at that point I had to sand all this down. So as I was sanding it down, the clear coat was just coming off like an eggshell. And then the clear coat that was stuck in between these areas, I used a screwdriver and it was just chipping it out. So I sanded down this whole entire area. I got all this base off of here, and then I just gloss coated it nice with Duplicolor black after I used my adhesion promoter. And then once it all dried, I did a little bit of a dry brushing of Citadel bronze just to give it a little patina type look. And then I did my signature base where I do the dark rock with the lava stuff. And that's pretty much it. So that is the paint up. I like to thank everybody that watched the video. Thanks to guys that came in for my live streams just to kind of watch me work on her. You never know sometimes if I'm going to work on a client's commission in streams just to kind of get caught up. But this one worked out pretty well. One of my first paint ups of like an actress, you know, or an actor type thing. Kind of had some fun with it. And it worked out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with the look. Got some really good colors down in process, so if I ever do another one of the movie version of Wonder Woman, I got a better idea of what to do. So, thanks guys for watching. I appreciate it, and we'll be back with some more videos.